This man's wife left him, but not for the reasons he thought. Once there was a couple who just got married in Paris. They were very happy together, but the wife had one secret she didn't tell her husband yet. She had a birthmark on her face. She'd been wearing makeup to cover it, but she thought once she showed her husband, she would know whether he truly loved her. So after they got married, she took off her makeup and showed him. He was surprised, but he wasn't going to let that change anything. However, the next morning, his wife was gone. Her husband thought that she must have felt upset due to how surprised he looked when he saw her birthmark. Or maybe she had second thoughts. After months of getting no reply, he finally gave up on trying to look for her. He was heartbroken, but after a few years, he got a new job in a different city. He wanted a fresh start in life, but things didn't go as planned. He came across a strange-looking circus called the House of Oddities. This made him very curious, so he went in, but what he saw inside would shock him. Among the other circus acts, he saw a twisted woman rocking back and forth, looking terrified. He screamed as he recognized the birthmark on her face.
Story time of how I caught my ex-boyfriend cheating on me. Y'all better be ready because this one is good. So I started dating this guy when I was 16, turning 17. We were friends first, and I even knew his friends and I knew his family. And he's actually asked me out once before, but I said no because he was a player. And so by the time I turned 16, I said yes to dating him. So things were really great at first. I was really into him and we would go on so many dates and he was super sweet. And there were definitely signs, but I totally missed them. And I'm just not the type of girl to like go through a guy's phone. I noticed he was super active on Snapchat, which is never good. One day he posted a Insta picture and I looked at the comments and there was a girl in the comments, which is fine. Girls can definitely comment. I am not a jealous person, but she had left a comment that said, "You're so hot," with a bunch of emojis. And these emojis were all hard eyes, guys. But a part 2 to see me blend this out and to hear the rest of the story.
Get ready with me while I tell you guys about how I accidentally snitched on my sister in high school for sneaking out. So she was in 12th grade and I was in 9th grade, but I probably had the maturity level of like a 5th grader and the knowledge of a 5th grader. To put things in perspective, at this time I was sleeping with my little brother because we would stay up all night and play Minecraft. Very like well under what I should have been at my age. So one night, me and my little brother finished our Minecraft Chronicles. And I believe I fell asleep for a little bit, but then I noticed my sister's light was on, so I was like, I'm gonna go be nice and turn that off for her. Also, if you can hear like some weird sounds, the people above us, I believe, are doing their laundry, and it is so loud, and it's been doing this for like an hour, so I was like, I'm filming, like, get ready with me. So I went to turn her TV off, and I noticed there was like blankets covering her, like on her bed, and I was like, oh my gosh, like she's not gonna be able to breathe. And when I tell you, this is literally my 9th grade thoughts. So when I pulled the blanket back to help her breathe better, I saw these pillows like in position that looked like a human. And this is gonna sound so dramatic. After I did that, I noticed her curtain was like blowing and it's nighttime, so everything was like more dramatic to me. So in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody like kidnapped my sister, left her TV, her light on, made it look like there was somebody still sleeping in her bed so that they could get away with this. So I'm already freaking out, like already on the verge of tears, and I'm like, I have to go like run to my parents' room and tell them that Sarah's kidnapped. And how naive I was at the time definitely kept me from understanding the situation, obviously. So I go into my parents' room and I'm like, guys, Sarah's kidnapped, and I'm like crying already. And the first thing my mom does is hop out of bed and goes, Sarah snuck out. And I was like no part of me thought that. I was like, no, mom, like she's kidnapped. You don't understand. The curtain was like swinging in the dark. So I start sitting on the couch while my parents are like calling her and going outside to see where she's at. And I'm like crying, but at this point I'm like, maybe I did accidentally snitch. So my sister gets home and she's like explaining her side of the story to my parents and why she had to do what she did. And I'm just sitting there like, So at this point, she's obviously a little sad because she got in trouble. I would have gotten in trouble too. And I'm just like, I'm going to go in her room and comfort her. And don't think I'm a snake because I didn't know. Not my stupid self saying to her, I wouldn't have told on you. I just thought you got kidnapped. She goes, you told? Yeah, that was me. Moral of the story, if you ever think you're not a cool person, at least you're not me.
Am I the arsehole for not taking down a video that was a gift from my best man? I have a sister that is 6 years older than me. And for years, my parents have cancelled on me last minute because of my sister. If I have a basketball game, it's always, oops, your sister doesn't feel like going. Or even, I'm graduating and it's, sorry, your sister had a bad day at work. They have missed both major and minor events in my life because of my sister's meltdowns. So recently I met the love of my life and we decided to tie the knot. From the beginning I told my parents that I was worried my sister would ruin another special event in my life. But my mum told me over and over again that don't worry, that will not happen. On the day of my wedding I received a voicemail from my mum. She was basically telling me that my sister's dog was sick and she was upset. I can't lie, I was so hurt. The best man, however, he's a little bit of a joker. He took my phone and then went to my fiance and asked if he could post a video of our wedding on social media as a gift. And they said that they loved the idea. Basically, I had no idea about it until I got home. So we went straight to our honeymoon, and our honeymoon was on this gorgeous lakeside cabin, but that meant that we had no phone service at all. But the post caption was, "To my best friend, you're an amazing person," even if their parents never showed up for them. The video was like a compilation of me with my partner's parents, me on the dance floor, cutting the cake. It was basically pictures where you would normally see both sets of parents. And if you think that's bad, it gets so much worse. The sound playing in the background of the video was the voicemail my mum had sent to me explaining why she couldn't come to the wedding. And that she wasn't there because my sister's dog was sick. I kid you not, I came home a week later from hundreds of messages from family on both sides insisting that I take the video down. I was told that my sister hadn't stopped crying, my mum was refusing to leave the house, and I may be the arsehole here, but I didn't take it down when I got those messages. And I didn't call any of my family back right away. I just wanted to spend time with my new partner in my new house, and I waited for my vacation time at work to be over before I contacted anyone. My dad kept calling me and telling me that it was just a bad night for them and that they would make it up for not being at the wedding. My reply was, how do you expect to make it up? It was a once in a lifetime thing. And that they just kept choosing to ignore my feelings in the whole matter. And I told him that I would take the video down on the day that he made it up to me for missing my wedding.
Am I the asshole for telling my son I will not stop inviting his ex to family events? My son divorced his wife after having an affair with a much younger woman, and he and his ex have 2 kids, and his ex almost had full custody of them. Son gets his children for a week and a month. Just got engaged to the woman that he had an affair with and told me I'm not allowed to invite his ex to family events anymore because his fiance is uncomfortable being around her. Told him no, and now he's angry with me, but my reasoning is that she has custody of their children the vast majority of the time, and I want to be able to see my grandchildren frequently, not just once a month. He's basically been my daughter for 20 years, and the divorce is not going to change that. Am I the asshole for not excluding her?
My ex wanted me to be a crazy ex-girlfriend, and he ended up ruining his life over it. Story time. So my boyfriend Steve has always been the biggest drama queen. Every single disagreement ended up turning into a massive argument. And after 6 months, I got so tired of it all, so I decided to leave him. And the breakup went surprisingly well. It was smooth, quick, painless. The breakup kind of came about because we were having an argument because I did not want to move in with a guy that I had only known for 4 months. And my knowing this matter caused tears and screams. You should have seen this boy. It's quite tragic, actually. I should have just ended it all there and then, to be honest. So after that breakup, I actually didn't hear from him for a few days. And then I started to get all of these strange Facebook messages. They said that I should stop bothering him, and if they found out that I was at his house again, that they would report me to the police. You know, shocker, I actually had never done any of the sort. I was sent screenshots of texts that I had supposedly sent but never did. Some of his friends even called my boss and told him that I was using the store cameras to monitor what he was doing. I basically worked as an assistant for a photographer, and they were claiming that I was stealing cameras and taking pictures of my ex. But my boss knew what my boyfriend was like, so he just shunned it all off. So one weekend, I was in the mall and I saw my ex, and he started running towards me, arms out wide, wanting a hug. I was obviously having none of that, so I just walked straight past him, leaving him with his arms outstretched. And next thing I know, I am being pulled back by my hair. Next thing I know, a woman is screaming in my face, telling me to stop stalking her boyfriend. So I just laughed in her face, which looking back was a really, really bad idea, because she just went straight in and yeah. She slapped me. She was screaming, "Stop stalking my boyfriend," and before I knew it, the attack was done and over. It was so quick, it happened all in a blur. Anyway, then security came over and this woman starts telling them how I'm a stalker and I've been threatening her boyfriend. And then I ended up getting kicked out of the mall and arrested. Like for part 2?
You've heard of the Charlie game, right? Well, if you haven't, it's like Bloody Mary, but way, way worse. With Bloody Mary, you turn off all the lights, you turn the water on or something, and then you say Bloody Mary's name 3 times. Then your friend would grab you, you'd run out of the bathroom screaming, and it was all fun and games because you got scared, right? It's scary, but it's okay because we all know it's a game, right? But what about when it's not just a game? I can't believe I'm doing this makeup look, but you guys asked for this. You guys wanted Bejeweled Shrek, so here it is. Anyways, me and my friends were hanging out in the basement. We were eating pizza and playing the Nintendo Switch. Then Jonah looked to me and asked, "Do you know the Charlie game?" At first I thought he was talking about a new game on the Switch or something. He told me you go into the bathroom and you turn off the lights. Then you knock on the mirror and you look for Charlie. If you see him, the game is over. If you don't see him, then it's time to go to step 2. The second part of the game was too hard to explain, so we decided he was just going to show us. He took a piece of paper and he wrote yes and no on it in 4 corners, like this. Then he put 2 pencils crossing each other on the paper and started chanting, "Charlie, Charlie, can you hear me?" He turns the light off, and at this point, I'm starting to get scared. I whispered to my friend Christina that I was scared. She leaned over and assured me that it's just a game. We were whispering, but somehow Jonah heard me. Jonah looks up at us and he goes, "It's not just a game." We asked Charlie questions and the pencils moved and he answered. But that's not the scary part. So after we finished the game, we went to bed. Everyone else had fallen asleep and I was watching TikTok on my phone. I heard a creak and it sounded like it was coming from upstairs. I tried to tell myself maybe it was the wind or the house settling or their pets, but it wasn't windy and they don't have any pets, so when I heard the creak a second time, I got scared. I tried to wake Christina, but she was out. That's when I noticed that Jonah wasn't laying next to us. I'm debating whether or not to get up when I start hearing whispering. And then it hits me, he's playing that freaking game again. That's when I had an idea. I was gonna scare him. So I sneaked closer to the bathroom and sure enough, the whispers are getting louder. I could hear his chanting, "Charlie, Charlie, can you hear me? Charlie, Charlie, show your face." When I got up to the door, it was closed. There was a weird light coming from underneath the door. I reached for the door handle and when I touched it, it was burning hot. I kept reminding myself that it was just a game. I knew when I opened that door, I was gonna see Charlie. I just went for it. I opened the door. And we're finished with Bedazzled Shrek, so go to part 2. Let me know what look I should do for part 2.
I hid a camera in my son's car and what I saw horrified me. Last month, my son, 17, got in a mild car accident. I was immensely disappointed in him and I made that very clear. As punishment, I decided to put him in lockdown. The set rule was that he couldn't leave the house unless given permission and he wasn't allowed out of my sight. Anyway, while my son was asleep, I decided to install a camera in his car. One of those cool shiny ones that aren't noticeable unless you search for them. I planted it in an air vent at the top, leaving the vent cracked open. My son isn't the brightest, so he would never think to search his car. He would never suspect a camera. After watching his actions over the week, I determined he had gotten his act together and could leave the house again. 3 weeks had passed and there was no suspicious activity on the car cam, so I decided it would be okay to let him drive. I regretted that decision almost instantly. He bolted out of the house and hopped in the car to head to his girlfriend's house without even letting me know. I'm quite annoyed that he didn't ask for permission, but I'll let it slide this time since it's her birthday and all. I started to watch the car cam intensely. He had gotten to her house a few minutes ago and he left her birthday present in the car. I knew
Storytime about how my boyfriend and best friend were sneaking around behind my back. So a little background information, I was 15 and in 10th grade. So my mom and dad were split up and I was pretty much allowed to do whatever I wanted because of that. So I was dating this boy named Jacob. Well, my best friend Alice literally hated him. Like low-key, every once in a while, she would try to break him and I up. And when I would call her out on it, she would just deny it. Anyway, so the one day I didn't go to school because I was super sick. So the whole day I was trying to text Jacob and Allison, but nobody was answering me. Which was extremely weird because no matter what, Allison would always text me back. So after I knew the school ended, I went to Allison's house. Nobody was answering the door, so I used the spare key. I walk in and all I hear is a very loud banging coming from her bedroom. So I walk in, I see my boyfriend and her together, and then he starts saying that she drugged him. So I went on his phone, I see a bunch of old text messages between him and her, and them exchanging pictures. And then sis wants to start giving me an attitude, so I punched her in the face, and then I left and I don't talk to either of them. Storytime about my extremely creepy neighbors. So a little background information, I was 12 years old and I was in 6th grade. And my family and I lived in a really small town where everyone knew everyone. But our new neighbors had been building their house next to us for the past 4 years. And finally when they were done with the house, this house was huge. I mean, probably because there were like 8 people moving into the house. There was the mom, the dad, 4 kids, and their grandparents. So like 8 people. But I was super excited because I was like, okay, this is awesome. I get to meet some new friends. But after 2 weeks of not seeing anybody playing in the backyard or anybody on the school bus, I started to think that their family was super fucking weird. And everyone in our neighborhood liked to gossip, and everyone was saying how they barely see the people who had just moved in. So my mom decided to take one for the team and make some brownies, take them over to the house, and I ended up going with her. So we go up to the house, we knock on the door, and one of the kids came and opened the door, but the dad ran over and grabbed him, like for part 2.
I was in class on Zoom. I wanted to go to sleep, honestly, because like when I'm tired, I go to sleep. I end up falling asleep and then class ends and everyone starts leaving the class. Except me, because I was like in a whole other universe at this point. I was dreaming, I was flying. At this point, me and the teacher are alone in the call. This is the best part! Then the teacher starts talking to me and he's like, Samantha, wake up. Samantha, please. Samantha, you have another class. He woke me up, but I was half awake, so I didn't really know what was going on. So I thought it was my brother waking me up, and I straight up yelled. I was like, shut up, you fat booger. And so then I realized, oh shit, I just called my teacher a fat booger. And now he scheduled a parent conference. I'm going on Monday, so I'm really excited.
My ex ruined his life and I'm buzzing about it. Story time. So I found out that my ex was having an affair. He told me that he'd found a woman at work and he'd fallen in love with her. He told me that he no longer loved me and that he wanted a divorce. And we had been together since we were in our teens. Bearing in mind, he'd known this woman for 3 months. And we had 3 children together as well. And I desperately fought for our marriage, but he simply just would not stop seeing this woman. This one weekend, he disappeared from Friday afternoon till Sunday night. And that was the final straw, so I was like, see ya, and I threw him out. And he immediately moved in with this other girl. The only excuse he ever gave me was that there was just something about this girl and he deserved to be happy. And that was it. That was the excuse for throwing literally everything away. We ended up finalising the divorce in early 2022. So although I had some very strong feelings towards him, I faked it enough to get some pretty favourable divorce terms from him. Seeing that he was so intent on being with his dream girl super quick that he wasn't really intending on having a long divorce. In the end, I got to keep my house, which was good because I bought this from my grandma. I did have to give him quite a hefty payout though. And throughout all of it, the kids took it really hard. My eldest son told him that if he chose this other woman, then he would not have a relationship with his son anymore. But my daughter does have somewhat of a relationship. But their conversations end with my daughter being really upset most of the time. So, about 4 months after the divorce goes through, my ex contacts me. He realised he'd made a horrible mistake and was asking if he could come home. So it turns out this dream woman was actually a really nasty piece of work and a not very nice person at all. So I used this opportunity to tell him exactly what I thought about him as a person. And whilst I was at it, I thought I might as well throw in what he was like as a father and as a partner. I told him that this is his life now. I told him that he no longer had a home at this house and to never even try contacting me ever again. So a few things have happened since that meant he's tried to contact me again. I'm also aware that this is not the right shade, but we'll sort it out. First of all, I met someone. My sister introduced me to someone who she works with who is also divorced. We got on so well and have been seeing each other since last summer. It's quite nice actually because neither of us want to get married again. And secretly, I think he deserves all the pain he's going through in regards to the kids. He destroyed our whole family without so much of an afterthought. Well, too bad, hon. So sad for you. So, he recently ended up telling my daughter that he'd actually broken it up with his dream girl. I found out that the dream girl had nicked all of his money and that money actually turned out to be mine. You know, the money from the divorce settlement? Yeah. Oh, and she also wrote off his car when she was driving drunk, so that's great. And this is all coming from a woman in her 30s. You know, just to remind everyone, coming from a woman who he knew for 3 months and then proceeded to ruin our whole family for. And I act like I feel pretty sorry for him. Inside, I delight that this is the life that he's made for himself. Call me evil or whatever. He brought all of this on himself. So if you're watching this, enjoy your shite 1-bed apartment and your broken down car, hon. Oh, and me and my new partner will think of you when we're on our vacation in Hawaii. I know Hawaii was the place you always wanted to go. Maybe I'll send you a postcard.